Recently, I declared Charlotte Fullerton is my least favorite writer on the show, mostly because she only wrote one episode that I can reasonably describe as good. All of her other episodes are a horrid mess. Spoilers for my future reviews, by the way. That got me to thinking who I can declare my favorite writer, and so I thought it'd be fun to do a top 5 list. There's only one rule. I can't put in a writer who only did 2 episodes at the time of writing. So no Corey Powell, no Chris Savino, or no Lauren Faust, because from the 2 episodes that they did, I can't properly gauge their writing style. And since there's going to be no Charlotte Fullerton either, that gives us just 6 candidates. So the one who doesn't make my list is the unofficial number 6. Just remember that this is all opinion, so don't accept anything I say here as fact. We're not waiting any longer.
Think we can do it, but we need to work together. We have to get this right. Yes, we have to make them see. We can save the crystal ponies with their history. Oh, we have
My top 5 favorite writers of My Little Pony: Friendship is Magic.
We can save the crystal ponies with their history.
I honestly don't know what to think about her. She's written the most episodes, but I still can't gauge her writing style. She's got some really good episodes like The Best Night Ever and A Dog and Pony Show, but she's also got some bad ones like Mystery on the Friendship Express or The Cutie Pox. For the most part, her episodes hit middle ground for me. That's not a bad thing. We need some of the standard episodes to mix up the really good hard hitters, and give us a breather between them to make their impacts even better. My least favorite episode of hers is The Cutie Pox, which is 18 minutes of filler. And yes, I counted. That tells me that I only don't like her episodes when she's being lazy. But when she tries her hardest, we get something like my favorite episode of hers, The Best Night Ever, which mixes together 6 plots to a cohesive whole, and makes it funny and entertaining the whole way through. You'd think she'd be best with the simple plots though, the main thing she writes about. I hear she's coming back in season 4, and I really don't have much of an opinion on that. The only real expectation I have of her is that none of her episodes will be horrible, because currently none of them are.
Oh, we have to get this right. Yes, we have to make them see. We can save the crystal ponies with their history.
I'm sorry, 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 I'm sorry. In my personal opinion, Dave Polsky is the funniest writer on the show, and he loves to use that little talent of his. Every episode of his lines up with some of the funniest in the entire series. Unfortunately, that leads to his biggest problem. He seems to ignore everything else. His stories aren't the best, and his morals? Yeah, he wrote Feeling Pinky Keen, but none of his other morals got down to that level. And I loved Feeling Pinky Keen, which I still consider his worst effort. Polsky has the uncanny ability to make terrible episodes that I absolutely love. Over a Barrel I don't consider bad, but a lot of people do, and I'm not really sure why. I made a lot of jokes about drugs in that episode because it felt a lot like a stoner comedy, so if you don't like that episode, I suggest watching it while high if I didn't believe that drugs were bad. Too Many Pinkie Pies is in my top 5, no joke. A lot of people seem to hate that episode because they think Pinkie was acting out of character. There's only one response I have to say to that. No, 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 and no. In that episode, Pinkie, the real Pinkie, was acting entirely as she should have. Games Ponies Play seems to be everyone's guilty pleasure of Season 3, sort of like Mystery for Season 2, and that's me included. I really like that episode despite the story being absolutely shit. And finally, Keep Calm and Flutter On, which I absolutely love and I absolutely hate at the exact same time. Kinda perfect for an episode involving Discord. So yeah, he's good with humor, but bad with stories. And if he teamed up with my next choice, we'd probably have a perfect episode.
To get this right, yes, we have to make them see. We can save the crystal ponies with their history.
Before you say anything, Cindy Morrow has written some of my favorite episodes on the show. Hurricane Fluttershy is in my top 3, and Sister Hoof Social isn't too far behind. That being said, she's also written some of the worst episodes in the show, like The Showstoppers or All's Well That Ends Well, and in Season 3, she just seemed to be on autopilot doing things by the numbers. To be honest, she's extremely confusing. She's amazing at emotional connections, but she often relies on humor, which is pretty much the only thing that she's not good at. I don't need an episode to be funny, but I do need an episode to know what it wants to do and actually do it well, just like she was able to do with Hurricane Fluttershy or Sister Hoof Social. That's probably what made One Bad Apple such a disappointment for me. With Sister Hoof Social, she broke out all of the cliches by having siblings act naturally and realistic. In One Bad Apple, she went for the most tired and cliched moral of them all. If you're being bullied, you should just tell an adult. I've got a lot to say about that episode when I actually get around to reviewing it, so I'll just say this for now. That's where the moral begins, not where it ends. But like I said, it's cliche. So literally every cartoon I've seen dealing with bullying has come to the exact same result. Her other big disappointment was Apple Family Reunion, which was not only on autopilot, but on autopilot in the strangest position. There's a very fine line whether or not I like an episode, and she wrote it the whole way through. Wait, wasn't this a positive list about my favorite writers? Oh yeah, Hurricane Fluttershy. Hurricane Fluttershy is an absolutely perfect episode. Not just for this show, but a perfect episode in general. Not only is the moral well handled, but it's extremely relevant, and the episode still touches my emotions after seeing it dozens of times. Not to mention that it has the perfect representation of each of the characters. I mean, this isn't Fluttershy. This is Fluttershy. This isn't Rainbow Dash. This is Rainbow Dash. Take a guess who isn't appearing on this list. I keep thinking there's an episode I'm forgetting. Oh yeah, Read It and Weep, an episode full of intense action, and one that really surprised me with what they could actually get away with. It gave me a very nagging question though that to this day I still can't answer. While accepting reading is definitely a good moral, what the hell does it have to do with friendship? Is there anything that would put Cindy Morrow higher on this list? Absolutely. Less of this, and much more of this.
We have to get this right. Yes, we have to make them see. We can save the crystal ponies with their history.
Though he gets the reputation as the fan favorite, he's not my personal favorite. Don't get me wrong, I haven't seen an M.A. Larson episode yet that I didn't like, but there's one writer who I like even more, for other reasons. And if you've been paying attention, you already know who my number one is. As for Mr. Larson, he's got the most interesting ideas, and he, for the most part, runs with them. Every episode of his, you can be sure you're seeing something totally new, with possibilities that you yourself wouldn't have thought about. That's probably why my least favorite episode of his is the Super Speedy Cider Squeezy 6000, because it's just so mundane. I'm not going to talk about Magical Mystery Cure here because of the controversy, but even outside of that, he's got some real gems under his belt. Sonic Rain Boom, The Return of Harmony, The Cutie Mark Chronicles. If they aren't at least in your top 10, I don't know what to say. I even really like his weaker efforts, like It's About Time, despite, let's be totally honest here, the worst ending in the show's history. If he has a flaw, that's probably it. His endings have a tendency to be, I have really grown to hate this word in the past couple of months, but I have to say it, rushed. Yay, Twilight instantly knows the spell to fix her friends, and Discord doesn't even try to fight back. But like I said in a previous review, it's the journey, not the destination, and every other part of that episode is a pure masterpiece. He also seems to have a weird obsession with destroying Ponyville. He's destroyed it on at least 4 occasions, and I'm not sure why. Maybe he has a deep-rooted hatred of the older generations and is taking it out on friendship as magic. He has 3 episodes, well, 4, but I'm not talking about the 4th here, that tend to get a lot of flack. Swarm of the Century, Ponyville Confidential, and Magic Duel. I have no idea why anyone hates Ponyville Confidential. In fact, I think it's the best CMC episode, period. Swarm of the Century I understand a bit more because of Pinky being Pinky, but Pinky is allowed to be Pinky because only she can be Pinky. You follow? Because Larson did 10 episodes in. As for Magic Duel, most people found this episode to be a huge letdown. One question, what did you expect? Trixie to come out of nowhere and cast Secta Sempra on Twilight, causing ribbons of blood to spray out of her, while she returns fireballs that char Trixie to the bone and we see every bloody gory second? To all who are expecting more from this episode, I implore you to realize that there's a difference between a duel and a fight. A fight is when characters try to beat the shit out of each other. A duel is when characters try to best each other with skill to prove that they are superior. On top of that, Trixie was trying to win, and Twilight was only trying to not lose. And then there's Luna Eclipsed, which is my favorite of the 3 holiday episodes. Honestly, I reviewed it so recently that anything I say about it will just be repeating myself. Speaking of that, The Secret of My Excess review, which I'll say right now is the best Spike episode, is in production. For those who have M.A. Larson as their favorite, I'll say right now that this is the best he could hope to be with what my favorite has done and is doing.
Yes, we have to make them see. We can save the crystal ponies with their history. Oh, we have to get this right. Yes, we have to make them see. We can save the crystal ponies with their history.
I'm going to be blunt as possible on why I like her so much. She does all of the important shit. Her first episode was Dragonshy, which not only started the show's climb to greatness, but proved that Fluttershy could be a good, likable, and useful character. Not to mention that it's still a fun watch, and it's a homage to The Hobbit, which I didn't realize while reviewing it because I'm an idiot. She also helped a lot of people see how great a character Rarity could be with Sweet and Elite, which I just reviewed. Her most important episodes were Call of the Cutie, which not only introduced the CMC really well, but did the Finding the Cutie Mark plot that others have beaten into the ground not only first, but did it the best. Lesson 0, which changed up the moral formula that may have proved cancerous to the show and doomed it to repetition, and A Canterlot Wedding, which introduced Shining Armor and Cadence. Now, it's become a slightly controversial episode because it does have some problems with logic, and in my opinion that makes the episode even better, with how many people didn't notice them until somebody really took an ice pick to it. It wasn't the first time she had an episode like that either. Party of One had a glaring logical problem, the party extraordinaire forgetting her own birthday, which most people, myself included, didn't even notice the first time around. Honestly, the only episode of hers that I don't like is Hearts and Hooves Day, but do I even need to say why?
A kissy wissy snuggy wuggy sugar bear.
Shut up! Just shut up! Please, shut up! Green Isn't Your Color is another pretty good one, doing jealousy correctly, unlike All's Well That Ends Well. The only thing wrong with it was Twilight was being shoehorned needlessly into the plot, which, like I said, Meghan McCarthy fixed. One thing I really love about her episodes is the way she writes Spike. I know it's an odd thing to bring up, but he's usually characterized as a wimpy punching bag or a useless dolt. Between Lesson 0 and the Crystal Empire, I can see that she really gets him. Oh yeah, the Crystal Empire. It's time to get controversial. I actually like the episode, and unlike feeling pinky keen, I actually think it's a good episode too. Because do you know what I did? I watched all 3 season openers back to back. The Return of Harmony comes first, big surprise, but the Crystal Empire actually comes a close second. And that's for only one reason, and it's not Sombra. It's the wonky tone. It keeps shifting back and forth between Twilight going after the heart in the darkness to the others keeping the crystal ponies distracted in the bright sunshine. I wouldn't exactly call Sombra a good villain, but I've seen worse, like Nightmare Moon. Yes, I went there. Sombra had the ability to keep down and impress an entire empire, while Nightmare Moon had the ability to make a thorn, cut off a mustache, and make scary trees that did absolutely nothing. Neither of the two really made themselves known into the climax. In fact, they seem to be on a very similar wavelength. And with moments like this, I cannot kick this episode to the curb like so many others have done. Let me make this clear. I think Foster's the better showrunner, but I think McCarthy is the better writer, and under no circumstances do I think she's a bad showrunner. In fact, I think she's actually been doing pretty good, just not as good as Fost was. And while we're deep in the volcano controversy, and I'm probably going to get plenty of hate anyway, I may as well talk about Equestria Girls, since you know she's the one writing it. Some people are kicking it to the curb, and some are cautiously optimistic. Is anyone else actually looking forward to it like I am? Yes, I'm looking forward to it. The way I see it, we are getting 66 minutes of the characters we've come to know and love, made by the same team who brought us all together, by the writer who does all of the important shit, 6 months earlier than we would have gotten any pony stuff. Does the trailer leave a lot to be desired? Of course it does, but so did the trailer for A Canterlot Wedding, which made it seem like the main 6 were going to duplicate themselves to do all of the chores for a stereotypical wedding. Either DHX is good at making bad trailers on purpose, or they're very bad at making trailers in general. I'm not asking people to like where the show is going. Hell, I'm not even asking them to shut up about it, though it would be nice if they stopped threatening the DHX staff members. I'm asking them to keep an open mind. Don't judge based on appearances, and who knows, maybe a show about pastel humanoids can be just as good as a show about pastel equines, learning the magic of friendship that rose up from the most saccharine stupid imaginable.